figuring out what's happening in the BFSI domain. My name is Samir Singh Jani, and I'm part of the Digital Fifth. I'm sure as people move on and join us in next couple of minutes, we will try to go deeper into it. But a very, very high and broad level, the perspective I wanted to give to in today's session is that the roles are dramatically changing, and we wanted to put some method behind the madness, right? Why things are changing, what can be done about it, what are the roles, various roles which exist. I think it's pretty complicated for sort of anybody to figure out what it is. So we try to put some ideal situations which can happen. For example, if you're in operations and you want to move into digital roles, if you're into sales and you have to move into digital roles, what are the various components which we need to focus on is something which we will talk about and focus upon in this session. And it's more of an iterative by nature. So I think it will be good for us to get your feedback, get your questions, because these are live, real issues, right? It's not that I'm going to give you something very, very sort of, what do you say, क्या बोलते हैं, बहुत ही operational and saying ऐसा होता है. It's real practical stuff you will get to see. So we'll try to ensure that you understand from where we are coming, and sort of I'll just share the slides to you, and we'll walk through it as we go forward, right? So that's the intent, and happy to take your questions as they come up, right? So I'll be happy to take your questions, but largely to focus on the dynamism in the market, what is happening, who's doing what kind of work, kind of stuff. And I'll also use the context of, and it's quick introduction, maybe 30 seconds for us. We are India's largest consulting firm on the fintech domain. And we obviously do tons of training, which is directly coming from our consulting practice. That's us. We have been there for 5+ years now. I think we are entering the 6th year, and we are growing with time. And this is a quick journey. And we work largely in India, but we do some work outside India as well. Customers are across the world, and they are some of the customers we work and operate with from a consulting perspective, some on the trainings perspective, and some even on recruitment. We will talk about that. But again, the knowledge which we have earned is largely from being on the ground. And that's what we intend to bring through multiple of these sessions, which we tend to do all the time. And of course, services are largely on consulting, partnership, training, and hiring. And of course, from a training perspective, I'll give you the context from where we are coming for this course. Is we have built a lot of courses on the fintech side, on digital side in last so many years. And this is our 6th year also of doing training. And we've seen a lot of success with our participants, and many of them have turned into CXOs in their organizations. Many of them have turned into entrepreneurs. Many of them have taken new roles in different organizations, and they have been very successful out there. And we'll also have somebody who has done this transition, who will talk about who's moved from a tech-focused role to a very enriched role with a large fintech in the country. And he will talk about his experiences, how he's right now doing it, and how he's able to handle that. That's Abhijit Nandi joining us in some time. In terms of experience from embedded finance or digital banking, all of these trainings we have done, and next one is coming on 7th of this month. And also we do hiring services as well, very specifically for only some specific roles, but these are some of the customers we tend to hire for. Largely between a leadership and the pure deep digital roles is what we focus on. Let's come back to the topic itself, how the jobs are emerging. Generally, on the market side, the growth is visible. Of course, there are inflation and the other challenges in the market, but BFSI domain, and of course, even PSUs have started doing well. BFSI domain has been growing, and there's a huge amount of entry-level job increase as well. So if you look at are they going to hire? Yes, but the roles which they're hiring for are different now. If you look at, there's a higher focus on pure digital roles. There's also roles required on monetization structures, partnerships. There are a lot of partnership roles coming up. A lot of people looking at varied kind of skills across. So I think in the earlier avatar, somebody with a business role will have no idea about technology and analytics. Somebody in technology will have no idea about business and analytics. An analytics guy wouldn't have no idea about what the business skills are required. But where we are entering is that all of these components are now getting unitized into one structure, and we'll tell you how it can be done. And I myself have a background in more on the business side, got deeper into technology, and then of course some level of analytics as well. And whatever I learned in that journey is what we tend to share, and me and my co-founders and also ecosystem comes across and gives out here. While BFSI is growing, we also have to realize that there's a lot of growth which has happened on the fintech side. Now there's a lot of talk about a degrowth of fintech in the market. I think we should also have to look at with a different idea. Even at $2.8 billion, which is 2022, which is which is as of 2022, July 15, which is midway through, we've already done around almost $2.8 billion of funding, which is more than the funding which we got in 17, 18, 19, and 20. Of course, 20 was a COVID year. Even then, and the last year was a massive one, right? So it is a contextual, but if you put it together, almost $10 billion of funding has happened in the market, which also means in a fintech funding, money can only be deployed largely on the onboarding journeys. So, for example, you will do digital marketing and you will spend on Google and all the other platforms for marketing, or you will put on people. And most of the people they are deploying and where the heaviest expense are is deep digital roles, and we'll try to define those roles as we go forward. Now, where the money has gone into lending, money has gone into payments, open banking, wealth, insurtech. So all I'm trying to say is that the money is now spread, and money in each area has spread very deeply, right? I mean, payment funding is also linked to even the lending side. So many of the payment players are also getting into lending. So between the lending and payments together, if you look at the money, we are almost talking about $6 billion, which is in today's terminology, 48,000 crores has entered India into fintech domain in last 1.5 years only, 18 months, and that much money. So we need to be cognizant amount of what can happen, why the jobs are getting sometimes overpaid as well at times. And of course, open banking is also similar by nature. So I think sky is the limit if you get the thought process right, and if you do well, the markets are doing well, so you will do well as well. Of course, there is an overhang of RBI regulations and all of that, but yet I think the market seems to be doing pretty okay, and we do hope that in next few years, I think the amount of jobs which will get created will keep increasing with time, and a lot of empowered roles will also come up. Now, with that background being there, let's look at the top 15 funding which has happened. So if you were to look at from a also targeting perspective, I think people like Pine Labs or Credit is hiring at a very rapid pace. Neo is also hiring at rapid pace. So there is a lot of increase in the hiring process in the market at this point of time. So you can look at these roles, these activities, and see if you can enhance your roles. You can even go and figure out who are the key players where you can actually go and grow with. In terms of just estimate, I'm not saying this is a very scientific way of right or wrong, but if we were doing a framework and calculation around that, we were looking at that. I'm talking about deeply digital roles, and I'll try to define later. I'm not talking about operations and basic sales roles. I'm not retail sales roles. I'm not talking about those. I'm taking deep digital roles will be at least 24,000 getting created on the private sector side, public sector side, another 8,000, and maybe small finance back around 700. And on top of that, there's NBFCs, on top of that, wealth, on top of that, insurance, embedded finance. Embedded finance also, you look at that, there are thousands of roles getting created, let's say, into other industries where they're enabling their customers on the digital side. So let's say, for example, we are working with at least right now 4-5 entities which are utilizing their data and seeing that their customer or maybe their supply chain gets credit as well. And when they build that kind of framework and processes, they need to know about their journeys, and they need to know other the fintech segment as well. So these are very powerful roles you would see fintech head for X bank, X company, Y company, and these roles are very powerful. So I think I suggest that if you have not targeted them, you should look at them very, very powerful role. And of course, within the technology side and compliance side, a lot of other roles will get created. Let's say look at large tech companies. They'll be hiring fintech resources as well. I know that many of these large companies also looking at rebuilding the product. They are moving from services to product as well. If you look at generically on fintech side, given the amount of money which has entered here, I think there is a lakh plus roles exist. If you were to search for fintech in Naukri, you would find a lakh 30,000 roles already visible there on the search basis. That's a quantum of jobs which are existing right now in fintech. Not, of course, all the roles will be deeply digital by nature. Even in fintech, there are a lot of roles which do not require much of our technology. They will be like front line sales, somebody who's working with, let's say, PhonePe, and actually just selling the QR code framework to the sales to the customers. They may not be deeply digital, but still a very large amount of jobs getting created. I think just to walk back from here, even if nothing happens, at least in next 2 to 3 years, 2 lakh jobs will be created, which will be deeply digital by nature. And it's up to you to see how you can embed yourself there. Now, I was all through talking about deeply digital roles. I'll try to define these deeply digital roles and then quasi-digital and impacted by digital. So anybody who's doing a product management needs to be deeply digital. He should. It can be around, let's say, gold loan, BNPL, inclusion, all of that, right? Anybody who's going to do lending, anybody who's going to digital payments or wealth, anybody who's in the product management will be deeply digital by nature because they have no choice. They have to understand everything. And we will talk about each of these segments, what they need to learn and know about. If you're a collections guy on digital side, even the technology guys, right? Technology guys have to be deeply digital because they need to know the domain much more. I think gone are the world where we would say that technology guys will actually not know about the domain at all. But you have to realize that if they don't know domain, they will not build appropriately. And then we'll have overhead. So you need to have a business guy, you need to have a product guy, you need to have a tech guy, you need to have 5,000 more people to get the same knowledge in. What if we can ensure that the tech guys are deeply aware of the domain? And that's something which we really work on. From a credit underwriting perspective, I think even if you are credit underwriting, you are in a normal process, you need to ensure that you incorporate the new digital products, services, and all of that inside. For example, can you include your early warning system is not manual, it is actually based on the market data for which you have plugged into APIs, and case managements are happening out there. So I think credit underwriting is critical from a purely digital. So I'll consider it as a deeply digital, even if the customers are not digital, because underwriting has to be on the real-time data. Now that we have a framework of, let's say, account aggregator coming in, you need to be able to analyze the data on a real-time basis. So from where to plug in data, how to plug in data, you have to tell what you need, right? Otherwise, product managers at times may not know what you need. So I think credit underwriting is now completely digital role. Embedded finance, I spoke about innovation. So I'm not saying I've called out 100% of the roles. Even the CEO role is deeply digital now. But yeah, I think these are some of the roles which I thought you should look at. The second is quasi-digital, which is, let's say, if you're doing fintech partnership, you're doing alliances, you're managing an account from a partnership perspective, or you are managing the success in some way, or you are doing product sales, or you are doing corporate and MSME sales. Even in corporate and MSME sales, they need to talk about APIs, integration with some backend. So you need to have a decent understanding of technology to make your role much more powerful. So I do believe that these roles will get enhanced as we go forward. So even if you're corporate and MSMEs, I think you'll have to learn a fair bit about digital. And then there are, and then again, these roles are increasing. They're not dying, they're increasing in size as well. Though, of course, the way these roles are increasing, you don't see it that much on this side, but yeah, that's also increased, it's positive. But if you look at it, those who are in the branch operations role, there are guys who in the call center or a service side who are managing them, or you are retail sales, you have people in the back office. Now, this is the placeholder if you are in, and you may be at the ground level or a senior level. You need to figure out what you can. I mean, so you are impacted because digital will tend to change your processes. For example, you are doing manual account opening, you will be doing digital app-based account opening. You are providing customer services in one way, you will have to do in some other way. Branches, if you look at branches, a lot of people are not coming in. So how do you engage through calls and all? So there is an impact of that digital on you. But technically, the number of roles which are getting created is not so much. I think over a period of time, some will add, let's say, for example, I was seeing HDFC adding more branches, but many banks will not add branches. And some with the digital banking unit, DBU's concept coming in, even the branch will get more and more automated and the roles will come down. So if I were to look at how you should look at your career, if you are in these roles, try to remain relevant, help in the transformation, but try to get into a bit of at least the quasi-digital roles, because quasi-digital roles will tend to allow you to transition to a new role, and then you can get into a deep digital role. So I think I somehow feel that the moment will be here. Now, am I saying that this is to ensure that you will be permanently growing well? I think the market is changing. Tomorrow, what is called digital now will not be called digital then. There will be further variation, further complexity. Your ability to know more and more will increase. But I think if a very, very high level, if you were to look at your positioning in the market, see where you are and what you can, how you can gravitate towards it. And we'll talk about it in next few slides. But at this point of time, any pointers, any questions, anybody has anything you want to ask, you can go ahead and ask me right now before I move to the next set of slides. Anybody has any question, any pointer for you?
So this is with respect to the product management.
Yeah.
So right now, if you just see, right, the product management has, as in like, now, as you rightly pointed out, people are moving towards more of a digital world. And, what exactly, the product manager as such, I have seen, one of the comments that, you need to be more, not like, the previous earlier business analyst role or something, which, earlier been played. And that has been totally it is coming into a different level of the product management in the current digital world. And if you could touch more insights on that would be great, sir.
Yeah, so one, I did a deep session on product last week. You can pick it up on YouTube. Better you can share the link to YouTube. But anyway, in the next few slides, we'll talk about those roles in a few minutes. Just give me one sec. Maybe we'll come to that. And of course, there are other roles in demand as well. Data science, blockchain, other roles also exist, which you can look at that as well, right? These are all deeply digital roles inside the system.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe I'll come and try to define what are the key variations and thought process on this slide. It's very busy slide, but I'll try to simplify it for you. So let's say you're a product guy. You as a product guy, you need to have a deep domain knowledge. Now I'll try to define this domain knowledge in next few slides. You should have a good idea about P&L. Now, a lot of times the product managers of maybe other generations would not know much about P&L, right? They would know a bit about it, but they would not know detail about it. So when we work with our clients, we tend to ensure that they have a fairly good idea about the P&L profitability. And a lot of times they get floored, but it's critical part of it. So I would say 95% or something on a domain knowledge. I'm talking about ideal candidate. Okay, this is not that everybody knows everything. So you will never get an ideal candidate, but ideal candidate on the product side should know deeply about the domain. They should know fairly about how the P&L runs, what is the cost structure, what are the embedded costs in the operations process, and all of that. They should have a good understanding of technology. I'm not saying that they should go ahead and start developing, but their ability to understand technology should be fairly high, fairly high, so that then they have to talk to their domain guys, the technology guys. They're not at loss for words and interpretation, right? And I have lived my life on these roles, and I know that technology team, when they don't understand what you're saying, they're lost, right? But anyway, your understanding of UI UX should be good, because experiences are critical. And we have seen that more and more experiences, the drop-off rates and all of them are increasing. So if you are, and of course, I'm also saying that in B2C, it will be different, B2B will be different. I'm trying to generalize it to one level, but we can even define it that when we go into B2B and B2C, how it will be different. Coming to the UI, the digital marketing, I think the cost of acquisition is critical. And you should know how the marketing will happen, how will you be doing organic, will you be doing the paid campaigns, if paid campaigns, how it will convert, what is the lead stage. As a product guy, you need to know ki kahan se aa raha hai, or how do you ensure that sales is done at a very low price. You can't say that I'm going to launch an unsecured lending and then give it to some digital marketing and say you drive with the numbers. It won't happen. So product guys have to own and understand how the marketing can be done. They should not become the biggest guys on the sales side, but they should have fair good understanding on how sales is done. They should also go on the ground, meet the customer, and try to see if they can sell to them as well. Strategy side, of course, we say that product guys are the CEOs of the product. So they need to know strategy well, roadmap, growth. And of course, given the current context, I would say, if I were to say last year, I wouldn't have increased the so much of focus on compliance. But if you look at the current context, the compliance should be very high, because the market is changing, digital marketing, digital lending, every time you hear something new. So I have increased the component which is there for compliance. So if I were to define ideal candidate for product, I think this is how it should look like. I'm sure you won't find too many guys who have these kind of skills, but I think it's about ideal candidate. And you can't say that I won't know product, I don't know technology, UI UX is not my problem, compliance is not my problem. I think those days are over.
Thank you, sir. Sir, just one query. Do you still see, the product and sales as a separate entity? At some point of time, I feel that, it's going to merge together in the
Uh,
digital world.
okay, so maybe you can put on mute. I'll respond back. So not really. I think there'll be people transitioning from sales to product and product to sales, and maybe from there to technology. But sales has a P&L responsibility on run basis, right? So for example, let's say today we are working with few clients where the product is working very, very closely to build the sales funnel. But on the ground, there'll be places where you have to do a touch and feel. You need somebody who actually has to do the sales. There'll be somebody who's driving the campaigns and getting the sales done through calls, connections. So if you mix these two, you will have an issue where product will stop growing and there'll be somebody doing only operations work, into only sales to get the numbers in. So you need to have some separator, but that will be also very small. So people should be able to transition across. But I do still see that product and sales will still be different in a B2C as well as B2B business. Coming to the technology side, I think ideal tech candidate should also know a domain very, very well. I think this is a pointer which I will always say that I used to lead technology and for a very long time. And one of the reasons why I could do was I had a fairly good understanding of domain side. So knowing domain is very powerful because then you can figure out how to utilize your tech skills and all of that. If you don't know how to do that, then you are always at mercy of BAs and you add more BAs. Some of the BA roles are not even required. Product and tech can work together. In many organizations, product and tech ke beech mein, there are actually either one or two layers. You can call it BSG, BPR, or some other units. I think that's where I have worked across these roles, and I know that some of these roles are just not required. If they get created because tech will not know how to talk to product and product does not know how to do tech. They should know fairly okay about the P&L, not that deep, but they should be able to read through P&L saying that whatever product they're building, what is the top line, bottom line, so that they can optimize their cost also. Technology, of course, they should know. UI UX, they should know because they are creating the experiences and they need to have a fairly deep understanding. Digital marketing, they should know a bit because a lot of products have journeys which are built and they should know at which point of time the customer is hitting, what he's not doing. You don't need external analysis. Even the tech guys can actually support. They should know a bit about sales so that know how numbers are growing, how the process is going. Strategy, they should know a bit. And then, of course, today, the way compliances are working, they should know in KYC what process, in AML what process has to be, in AML issues, how to solve. So I think this is, again, an ideal state of a tech guy, but it can change, right? So in this slide is largely I'm trying to say that, let's say, what are the various components? If you look at purely from a domain perspective, domain should be known maximum to the product guy, but others should also know the domain. P&L should be known largely to the product and the sales guys. Others should know a fair bit about it. So I think the idea is to give a variations to the area so that you can transition. So this is just to say that if you were to move in these roles, what do you need to do rather than saying coding acha aata hai, so I can be a tech guy. But I think that those days of just knowing the tech is no longer as relevant as it used to be. On top of that, any which way you need to have all the traits required. I'm not trying to say that anything higher, low, I'm not even trying to define. But I think the way the world is heading is that you need to have a better understanding of structure, process, control. You need to communicate. The tech guys are not known to be communicative. How do you ensure that they communicate? Products sometimes do not communicate with each and every entity. So these are some of the pointers. I'm just saying if you have to grow in your product management or a sales or tech in a digital world, maybe these will be much more relevant. And of course, I always believe that a bit of entrepreneur's mindset is also required because then only you can keep improving with time. Otherwise, you will become static as such, right? So I think that's the thought process on the trade side, which ideally you should have. I mean, a lot of times people don't tend to decide, and we typically when we get in, we try to ensure that our customers decide soon. This way or that way, take a shot, move ahead, do an MVP, go ahead, decide. A lot of times the customer journeys have to be retweaked all the time. So I think important that they are strategic by nature, they are decisive and all of that. Let's move on. Now, if you look at the previous slides, I was talking about domain, right? Now I've tried to explore the domain piece here. Now, domain, let's say argument wise, you are in unsecured lending or secured lending or inclusion or embedded finance. We have taken 4 use cases and try to define what it would mean to be a domain expert in these areas. So we'll go forward. Now, let's say if you are in unsecured lending, you should know fairly good about your product, whatever, let's say you are doing for consumer durable or you're doing just on salary loans or something like that. So you should know your product well, journeys well. You should also know about NPA management. You should also know about India stack and ecosystem, how ecosystem is evolving. You should know about underwriting. Payment and collection is a critical part of it. How the payments and collection, what are the efficiencies? If you were to use UPI, what will happen? What is the cost structure? You should know fairly about insurance, because when you do these kind of loans, in many cases, you might end up taking insurance. It is also possible if you want to become NBFC, you will end up doing a co-lending with someone. So you should know about that. And it's also possible that your portfolio may be getting sold to another bank because it is high yielding and you can actually sell it. So knowing all of that is useful for you. Of course, there are cases where you should know more. There are cases you should know less, but ideal case obviously is what I'm trying to call out. Don't try to be just saying I know lending and I don't need to go into anything else. I think the market co-lending is dramatically up, right? Most of the fintechs or NBFCs will be doing co-lending. Even most of the banks will actually use co-lending for increasing their books. So it's useful. Right now, for example, securitization and co-lending is residing with few guys in every bank. I think that has to get away and become more granular and more used by others in the market. I'll pause again because I sort of took a breakdown into first this structure of various roles, and then try to break up into one particular domain. If you are in unsecured lending, what you should know. At this point of time, I pause. Any 1 or 2 questions before we jump in and go deeper into, let's say, secure lending and few more areas? Any thoughts? Does it make sense, or it is looking too complicated? कोई भी कर नहीं सकता, कोई भी ऐसा role नहीं ले सकता. Any thoughts from anyone?
Yeah, I have one question. My name is Vijay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we are a domain expert, so what are the combinations of the technical things which we need to have, or which are ideal to have in the digital framework?
Can you just define it a bit more for me?
Yeah. Suppose if you are a domain expert or a functional expert, so what are the combinations of the technical things which we need to learn or which we need to possess in the digital framework?
I think I think we have not. I'll come to it when maybe later on. We have picked up some areas, but we have not picked all the areas. It may be also relevant in your area of choice. For example, if you are into, let's say, fintech which is dominating in particular segment, maybe you need to have a good handle on your analytics. Maybe if you're doing blockchain, your framework. If your development in Ruby or Rails, maybe on that. So I think I'm not going this particular slide or this particular session on that deeply on the technology side. I'm trying to bring a broad-based structure. Maybe in some point in time we'll bring that structure also. But today's focus was trying to give you a view on largely on what various roles and combinations possible here. So I've not done a drill down on the pure tech side.
No issues. Thanks.
Any other question from anyone in the context in which we are speaking? Or it looks too complicated? Okay, so I think let me just move on quickly from a framework perspective. We are talking about this kind of structure. Let's say if you are into secured lending. Now, if you're in secured lending, you should ideally have. If you're in secured lending, you should still know P&L. You should still know technology. You should still know all of that. But let's look at your domain knowledge, right? What would it mean for secured lending? So in secured lending, whatever commodity or whatever activity or whatever product, for example, you can be doing against gold, you can be working on machinery, you can be working on home, or again, loan against mutual fund or shares, loan against property, or you're doing vehicles, whatever it is against. You should know your commodity well, so that you know how to understand the cycle. Right now, we work with a lot of people on these sides, so we need to ensure that how does the commodity work, the price point, how does it go, how does the collateral management will happen on that. This is additional to the unsecured lending. This collateral management. And of course, you should know the secure lending itself, right? Process, plan, what are products possible, and all of that. And of course, the rest all of them are common by nature, which I spoke about even in the other side. You should know about India stack. You should know what payments and collection, insurance, and all that. So I think there's a context I wanted to bring is that these domains will change, but these will remain largely common for you to understand. Of course, underwriting will be slightly different and it's slightly easier in that sense in comparison to unsecured lending. If you're working on inclusion side, right? Again, inclusion side, all the components remain the same, but maybe there has to be work around unsecured, secured. Maybe in the segment you are in, there may be both kind of lending happening. There can be also inclusion focus. There may be also government initiatives running, right? Governments also support a lot of, they also fund a lot of money goes in that segment. So you should know about what are the government initiatives which you can utilize for that purposes. Again, just a framework, thought process, how financial inclusion guys will have to go. So they have to know all of that. So let's say, for example, many of the guys come saying, I know unsecured lending, can I go into secured lending? Answer is yes. You automatically know most of it. You need to know what kind of products or services you need to get it. Maybe unsecured lending will have common inclusion side, but maybe others you need to just pick it up along the journey. And that's doable. A lot of people do that. If you're This is another area where we work very, very deeply with a lot of people. Let's say, for example, you take a case of, let's say, e-commerce. In e-commerce, you would find embedded of Justpay trying to bring credit there, or Simple is bringing credit, or maybe in supply chain, you see Credible or Vyana bringing credit, or maybe even in the segments of choice, let's say in specific supply chains of, let's say, fuel, there is Repos, then there is a B2B structure, you have Udan, or you have Stellups, which is in milk. Many of them are bringing credit to these journeys. And for that to happen, you should know your segment very, very well, because you should know your supply chain very well, your frameworks very well. You should know what are the government initiatives. Again, in these segments, there are specific initiatives running. You should know unsecured and secured lending, because in each area, you will have both of them coming up. We have seen it all the time. So most complicated roles are in embedded finance, because not only you should know entire thing about lending and payments and all of that, you should know fairly deep about your system. So a lot of people who transition from fintech to embedded finance initially face a lot of challenges, because they're not able to correlate the data points and structures on that particular journey. For example, when we work today with the Stellups or Repos, we have to first learn that industry itself. Fuel कैसे चलता है? Fuel के अंदर against underwriting, how does it happen? What are the challenges? Who are the current credit providers? How do we enter? What kind of data points are available? I think it makes a hell of a lot of difference. But I think that's something which you should look at. But embedded finance roles are very powerful, and I suggest many of you should look at it as well. Now, just a quick maybe 2 minutes on how you should pivot, right? Let's say if you are to move from a tech or sales or ops role and pivot into a product role. And product roles are very powerful in terms of the kind of work they get to do. I think many of the consultants, when they work with us, they also run on product and strategy. And they find it very, very powerful when they can actually define the company's roadmaps and process plans and go forward. Now, in that sense, these are all heavily paying roles. Anywhere between associate product manager can get 12 lakhs to all the way to 1.5 crores and beyond also. We have seen many guys even getting paid more. So how do you transition? I think important that if you're a tech guy, try to ensure that you pick up more on the domain side, more on the strategy and PNL and compliance and sales and marketing. I think if you just start picking up only domain, it won't work, right? You need to go beyond. Similarly, if you're in pure ops and get into this product side, again, getting to know more about domain strategy, technology, I think this is doable, not very impossible. And as I said, you may not become a champion of all, but you should still know more. And sales guys sometimes do not pick up enough domain. So important that pick up domain strategy, technology, UX, and compliance. I'm just trying to show the differential of what they may already know. They may know a great deal about sales already. They may know a fair about maybe some domain as well. So where they have to improve is something you can create. Again, going back to the old slide I had saying, you just look at your measure yourself where I am and saying, how do I improve? Let's say if I'm a tech guy and I want to go into product, I need to be first reaching here in my own journeys. and ensure that my domain increases. If I don't know PNL, try to take some sessions on PNL, ensure that I know PNL, how it is run. And of course, from a UI UX, you should already know a bit. If you know, please work on UI UX rather than jumping to product guy and then taking those roles. So I think this is just a transition phase I wanted to sort of share about, where you can actually work on in the structure. And of course, these are all some of the sample responsibility and skill set we have picked up from the market. If you look at any of the platforms, what do they expect? They expect a lending head to, of course, run the growth initiatives, growth hacks, run the all goals with it. They should work with the product team for innovation, because they will say in the market what's happening, what they should be doing. They should be working on that. They should also know the lending ecosystem, who are the competitor, what is the customer experience, what kind of risk, because finally PNL risk also hits them. They should know about regulatory compliance as well, because their teams will be working closely with the operations team to run the compliances. They should know a bit about platform, because you can actually even do partnership in the market. Digital channels, for example, if you are working with a fintech or you are working at the bank for partnership, you can look at it. You should know a fair bit about data and as well. Similarly, somebody is in partnership head. They should, what kind of roles they should be running from each side. There can be strategic partnership, there can be marketing partnership, they can even be sales partnership. Which kind of partnership you will have and how will you drive deeply, and how do you engage in the market is something which we are trying to showcase here. Just a pointer, we run this executive program which starts on 7th of August. And one of the reasons why this is a reverse mapping we have done when we were building this course. Initially, I think a year and a half back, we had built it primarily for entrepreneurs and trying to see how they can actually launch their own companies. But along the journey, we realized that we got not just entrepreneurs, but we got a lot of professionals which used our courses to transition to newer roles. And we were trying to figure out why it is happening and why, and we were doing a sort of NPS from there and seeing the feedback. We've done a reverse mapping of this whole case, saying that domain strategy and compliance does come as part of our core roles, core activities when we take a session on, let's say, open banking or digital payment, digital lending, fintech ecosystem, India stack, and all of that. We sort of go very deeply into. In terms of technology, we do very limited courses on technology, which is on AI, ML, and blockchain, which is limited by nature. In our courses, if you were to become a pure tech guy, not really, we are not the right place, but we do fill some gaps which people may have. And of course, in terms of digital marketing, sales, and UX, we have launched a new segment in our course, which is on product management, so that you know how to do all of these activities. We also help in setting up the startup, how do you set up the startup. So there's a capstone around that. And there's a training around that. And of course, we run capstone projects, which are very tough. I think we will realize that with those projects, you can actually learn almost remaining things. So many people who have, as of now, we have almost 150 alumni from the previous courses. And many of them have done really well based on this background and structure. And one of them is here with us, Abhijit Nandi. He was from first cohort and has done really, really well. So I thought, and he was in a one particular role with ICICI on the tech side, and he's moved into a role with Perfios, one of the leading B2B fintech. So over to you, Abhijit. You quickly give your introduction and talk about what you learned and and how it has worked for you.
Hi everyone. Thanks for giving this opportunity, Samir. I am part of. You can hear me, right? So I am part of
Yes.
The first cohort, and as I was going through the slides that you have shared, it reminded me that we had covered almost all of these during our course. The course was more than 3 months long, and it was a rigorous one, as you said. Every weekend we used to come adherently and attend it without breaks. That's the most challenging part, without breaks. Samir and team has this this engagement that we have to keep coming back, and be engaged, through the course. So a little brief about myself. I have worked with ICICI Bank for 6 years. I have total experience of 12 years now. I have been through multiple roles in ICICI Bank, starting with as a product manager and later as an application owner. Um, Recently, I've joined Perfios and as a customer success principal consultant, and my role, the changes that I've seen in my role has made what I am. This the change that I've done from ICICI Bank to Perfios was definitely with the help of the course that I've gone through with Digital Fifth. It helped me understand the different aspects of fintech, that is the current changes that are happening in the market. Also understand a little bit. See, you have if you have experience of more than 10 years, you already have got some domain knowledge. But to get an overview of what is happening outside your network, you need to get accustomed. You need to understand. You need to go through a course like Digital Fifth has designed to understand and to get a clear picture. uh, if you have any questions, I'm ready to take up.
Yeah, anything from anyone you have a question with Abhijit in terms of, and again, it's about role change, not just about workforce, but also when you transition from a bank to a fintech, what happens? What are the challenges you face? How do you transition to it? So I think those will be the maybe a question from my side is that how the life has changed from this side to that side, working on a bank side in a particular area to a fintech where you're driving a lot of change. So how has that changed for you?
Yeah, Samir, when I was an application owner, my role was to act along with our vendor partners, to get a deployment, test it, get an okay from all stakeholders within the bank, and then once everything is fine, then go ahead with UAT deployment, UAT sign off, and production deployment, right? So basically, the stakeholders we are talking about is within an organization. In most of the cases, we know them. We are talking to them on a day in, day out, right? Now my role with Perfios is more of an customer focused role, where we need to understand that there can be various kinds of customers coming from different backgrounds, and understand their perspective, understand their use case, and then suggest them a solution. So here you have to be more open. You have to have an idea what is happening in the market, and what can be the next question. You have to be one step ahead to judge what could be the next question from the customer, so that you can answer him, you can satisfy his or her expectations. So expectation management becomes again a big role here in my current role. uh, as a customer success, you have to have uh, a little understanding of the functional side of it, as well as the technical side of it. So it's more of a techno-functional role here, whereas in ICICI it was more of a technical role.
Super. Any other question anybody has? And also, my request is please give filling the form. I think many of you are asking that how do we get access to the deck? We'll share the deck to all of them who will actually fill the form. So it'll be good if you could fill the feedback form. We'll do that. So any questions from anyone else for Vijit in terms of role changes, what challenges? Because a lot of people are trying to transition from here to there, right? So any questions for him before we proceed?
Vijay Kumar had asked a question on having coming from a domain expert role. One of the challenges that I've seen, if you are stuck in a specific role for a length, you start not knowing what's happening in other domains. That is one of the challenges, and you get focused to your area of expertise only. So one of the things that you should always do is get an opinion what's happening around, right? That should be an area that everyone should work on. That helps to change your role. For if you're looking for a new job, it helps a lot.
Perfect. I think there are no questions coming. Thank you, Vijit, for joining and sort of supporting us. Super stuff, right? I think I'm so happy to see your success, and I know that feedback from the clients, from professors has been very good as well. Saying that, I think I remember he told me once, one of the leadership team told me that one blog from your side had more followers than anybody else he has ever seen in life. So good stuff, Vijit.
Thank you so much, Samir.
Thank you. Just to give you everybody else with the course which we are talking about, it's starting on 7th of August. It's actually is interactive by nature. So we actually do teach live to almost 70 hours of live and 30 hours of recorded, but 70 is live. We tend to bring the best of the best. So you typically would see at least 30 to 40 country leaders. You will get CXOs coming and taking your session. So when you say you have a case studies based approach, actually case studies were led by the founders themselves. So you will I think you will end up meeting at least 25 founders in the market, the leaders, and also from banking perspective, a lot of CXOs coming and taking your sessions. So I think it's interactive by nature, which helps the participants in improving their knowledge. So we are talking about domain knowledge, we are talking about a bit of technology knowledge. We're also talking about India stack and all of that. And of course, product management and how to set up your own units or you setting up your own company. So I think we have tried to build around that. Of course, we continue to work harder to ensure that we learn from the market. For example, one of the feedback we are getting was that while the course was great, if you could also improve and deepen the knowledge on product management, which is what we are bringing to this course, which we are doing now, is that we have added a whole new component around the product management. So I think that's largely what I wanted to communicate at this point of time. If you have any questions, I'm here around for responding that. You can, I think if you have a question on how to onboard this course, I think you can reach out to Shrikant. His number is right here. You can reach out to him. And of course, you have some questions also on the pointers I said on the rule change. So this is besides the training itself. If you have any questions on the job change, role change, what are the new roles getting created? Happy to take these questions because we work on the ground. We meet all the role guys from bankers to fintech guys and to embedded finance guys. So happy to take any more questions from any one of you.
Hi, Samir.
Yes, Sangeeta.
Hi. I've been in the PMO space for almost 10 years now, and currently on a maternity break. I'm trying to get back to my work into the corporate world. So just trying to understand how the fintech and the world of fintech and the financial blockchain ecosystem can fit in, can help people transition from the role of PMO into the role of fintech.
So you were running a program management office, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's just go back, right? I'll just go back to the same slide, right? So let me just come back, right? Yeah. So my understanding is that your knowledge on domain may not be very deep because you are running program management, but since you are doing PMO, you would have some understanding of almost all these pieces, not too deep, but some area for sure, right?
Yes, like, when I see those verticals, I've seen many projects programs and portfolios being run on those verticals. And even some of the, not exactly the kind of fintech and payment kind of projects, but yeah, somewhere some of those applications being executed. Having experience worked in Melbourne, Australia, I'm just trying to understand how I can bridge the gap when I'm moving into the Indian startup fintech ecosystem.
So I think the critical point is that we need to know more about the ecosystem itself, right? Because you spoke about Australia, but India is very different. There's very correlation between India and many other countries. So needing to know about a lot about, let's say, India stack, or needing to know about how payments work in the country or digital lending. So, but I'll be honest, the knowledge looks very daunting, but it's not so. If you have a structured approach, Sangeeta, maybe you can pick it up in next few months and get ready for the market. The people are really looking at people who know how to run the programs, which is program management is a good skill to have. But important thing is that if you can pick up the domain side, which is, again, I repeat, if you are doing credit in Australia, India credit will be slightly different, right? Underwriting frameworks will be different, data will be different, pricing will be different, but very much doable, right? It's not. So what happens is that normally in the earlier avatar, when PMOs will run the programs, they would really not get into so as a project manager, program manager, you would not really go into domain. I think that's a big difference we are saying. The product managers also at times act up as a program manager. So I think which is a skill you already have. You just need to build the other skills. I'm sure you would know when you're doing program management, you are also doing a bit on the tech side and operation side and all of that, right? Following it up, getting it done, right?
Yeah.
So I think the difference will be there, but very much doable. Again, I'm not saying you need to attend our course, but I think important that you pick up the knowledge in the market of what's happening there. And of course, when you're re-entering the ecosystem back, so one, you are coming after a break, and second, you don't know the Indian ecosystem. It may take initially a bit more, but if you are able to compromise somewhere in between, I think the market would love to see people who have experience coming back. And I think the Indian ecosystem also really pays well, actually.
Okay, that's a great answer, because and that's somewhere the domain knowledge has to be filled up to get into this fintech ecosystem.
No, I'll be honest, in a fintech world, if you do not enter, or maybe when I say fintech, I also mean banks fintech as well. Banks get to the digital side. I think gone are the days when the tech guys enter the room and saying, "Mujhe pata nahi, mujhe patao kya karna hai, requirement do." I think those days are gone. Even when the product guys go in and saying, "Yeah, I don't know the sales numbers and it's not my KPI," I think those days are over. So everybody has a bit of an overlapping work between there are clients where we work with. The difference between a tech guy and a product guy, product and tech head is almost zero. Product guys know as much. It's just the roles are different, but they can transition when the product guy does not turn up. The tech guy turns up and he needs the engagements and discussions. So I think I see definitely. I don't know the exact background, but very much doable in the context of program management.
Yeah, the background being the banking and financial banking background with Infosys. Yeah.
So you're driving ANZ or what in Australia?
Not ANZ. No, not ANZ.
I used to lead delivery in Infosys for a long time. I had run consulting, so I used to run initially. So just give you a quick background.
My husband works for ANZ, so like I know what's happening in ANZ though.
So just a quick domain. So I used to run initially the deep domain consulting for Finacle. Initially, and then I moved from there to the delivery side, which is the dev side of it. So I think I have done the reverse as well, right? So you can transition. It's just if you run, you know how to run that. You have been working in Finacle, so you know about tech. Just need to pick up domain as well. Should be okay, and the market will be happy to take a Finacle guy back, right? There's enough demand in the market.
Yeah, I worked for Middle East regions like Arab National Bank, Emirates, NBD, and all those things for almost 6 to 7 years with Finacle.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Samit. Thanks for the guidance.
Thank you, Sangeeta. Any other question from anyone? And Krishna, good to see you. Good to see you after a long time. Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll pause now, stop now. Thank you, and please share your feedback. As I said, anybody who shares feedback will share the deck back for you to understand, so that you can conceptualize and see where you are in your journeys of life, and how you can transition. We took really try to figure out which is the optimal way of knowing your areas, and that's what we have built. So with this, thank you, and we'll be back with another session shortly. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the session.
Thank you.